Hey everyone, so after watching hundreds of hours of low elo games, there is one insanely consistent fact that we've seen in lane after lane. Support players do not understand how much they can control a lane and even a game. They constantly miss out on opportunities to acquire huge advantages for themselves and their teammates. Since both supports are doing this, it just turns the role into a coin flip. Whoever has the better team or ADC wins the game. Today, we'll be showing you some of the most common ways in which low elo supports are coin flipping games, as well as showing you what real challenger players do to dominate and win nearly every game. To start, let's look at this Nautilus, who at the time of writing this is currently one win away from gold. Godspeed and good luck, my friend. Not is his most played champion, and in this game, he was being quite successful, all things considered, getting his Vayne quite fed to the point where, here at 14 minutes, she has a whopping 6 kills and her completed Blade of the Ruined King. We can see that the enemy bot lane is scared and so behind that they are barely even on screen, until they aren't 2 seconds later. This is a situation where Nautilus needs to think about how to be more useful on the map than just sitting here more or less AFKing and just soaking XP. If we look mid right now, we can see this is happening. Nautilus could so easily recognize that he's not accomplishing anything by being bot lane right now, and easily move over for the gank and kill in the mid lane. But this is obviously a pretty specific situation where his Vayne is strong enough to 1v2, and there happens to be a low HP mid laner who he can gank. What if it's not this simple? Well, this is where we need to, first of all, just have the awareness that we should be looking for something more useful to do. Anytime that you're just AFK babysitting your ADC, an alarm bell should go off to look for a play. And the crucial concept to keep in mind here is something you're probably familiar with, and that's hovering, which is such a core concept for supports to understand. Let's say that Vayne wasn't quite as strong and the mid gank wasn't quite as obvious. In that situation, Nautilus can move up into the river, paying super close attention to both bot and mid lane and being ready to respond to either if a play breaks out. In bot lane, you're watching for Janna and Kai'Sa to respond to Nautilus not being in lane, watching for their body language to shift from one of total passiveness to one of aggression. In mid lane, you're watching for trading, body language, etc. as well. With proper awareness, you're effectively able to be in both places at once during this time should a play break out. This type of play is such an insanely powerful way to gauge and abuse your opponents as well. Let's say the second that you leave and start to hover, the enemy bot lane goes super aggressively onto Vayne. Well, next time, leave lane but don't actually move far and just bait them in by going missing and abuse when they try to engage. Or if they don't go aggressive at all when you leave, well, now you can really start to lean closer and closer to mid, impacting the map even more. Altogether, this is one of those things that you'll see every single challenger support doing when smurfing as a super consistent way to carry games and impact the map beyond just your own lane. Oh, and while we're on the subject of leaving your ADC, this was another great time to do so as they're able to crash the wave into tower. He could go ward this spot here so Vayne has plenty of time to see the bot lane coming back from base, and then he could leave. The reasoning here is that off this crash, the wave will of course bounce back to them. So not only will that help Vayne stay safe, but it also means that if he comes back before the wave hits their tower, he'll still get to collect almost all of that XP and will lose next to nothing. Alright, for our next section, we're actually just going to switch POVs to the Janna within that same game. And the topic here is wasting your abilities on Hail Mary prayer usages, which is easily one of the most common problems that we see from support players all the way up through Platinum. This Janna is obviously an egregiously extreme example of this, but it really is so common. Later on, back around that 14-minute mark, we see both her and Nautilus doing the same thing as both waste their abilities on a prayer. For more examples of this, we can look at this Silver 2 Lux who is just throwing abilities at random. Ashe pretty much had to troll to be hit here. Using E like this is not the worst thing in the world, I guess, but Q is a crucial piece of your offensive and defensive toolkit and should not be put on CD so freely. Players do this because they aren't punished for it. Then maybe they win a few games, their MMR goes up, and they start dying a bunch and aren't sure why. And the cycle repeats. Not using spells is actually just super OP. Let's look at the Blitz from that same game here. They have total control of this lane. Blitz runs forward and throws out a prayer of a hook at max range. Sure, this might hit, but what if instead we just stand here, zoning them, having total control of the lane because they know that at any second they could get hooked. Using this spell lets them off the hook and allows them to play the game. Now, Lux and Jhin don't understand this and stay back, but again, against better players you will be punished for poor ability usage. And while we're with this Blitzcrank, let's talk about a few other super common mistakes that low elo supports make. First, we'll jump way ahead here with him to almost 17 minutes as he's prepping for a dragon spawn. Why does this ward tilt us so badly? Take a few seconds and see if you know why. Hopefully you identified that this ward is bad because it's a spot where they will be standing and obviously have control of. They're super far ahead and will for sure be the first ones to dragon. So why do they need vision where they'll be standing? You can see here a little bit later that they are on top of this ward and it's giving them zero vision that they wouldn't otherwise have. Of course, he should have instead used this ward for deeper vision to get eyes on the enemy team as they approached, setting up a pick potential with his hook. Again, a bit later, Blitz is coming back on the map with the likely play being mid tower since Drag and Herald are both down along with the other tier 1 turrets. Once again, he wards where he's standing, then runs through mid to drop another relatively shallow ward. It can be really tempting when you don't see a lot of opponents on the map to drop wards like this, but what you can do instead is just wait for this mid wave to reach tower and see who is there. Then you'll know how safe it would be to move deeper for better vision. No one on the enemy team has any reason to show mid right now, so you just need to be patient. Just a few seconds later, Jhin and Lux show mid, so he now knows where 4 of 5 opponents are, at which point he can move in for better, deeper vision. Alright, finally, our last absolutely massive critique of every single support player that we ever watch is that they do not understand wave management, very likely because they think they don't have to. After all, it's the ADC who controls the wave, right? And we hear you, but no, just no. It is so important that you understand basic wave management. Now, we're not going to go over too much of wave management here in this video, but we really encourage you to check out the host of other wave management videos we have on the site and really start to add that to your skill set. For examples of why this is so important, let's show some more low elo footage and then talk about how our challenger smurfs utilize this skill. For this, let's take a good jump up in skill to platinum with this Lulu that you see here, just as a way to show you that this is a problem even at above average elos. Right here at 254, they have good control of the lane, but we know that Kha'Zix is headed bottom. Let's see what happens. Lulu only autoed twice out of likely 4 to 5 chances, causing the waves to meet outside of tower range instead of crashing. This is a huge mistake against a good jungler and very easily could have gotten him and his ADC killed. Once again, he doesn't get punished here because Kha'Zix doesn't gank, so he doesn't realize the mistake that he made. But just look at how long they're in this position with zero vision. So scary. And of course, we saw the same thing back in Silver from the Janna that we looked at earlier in this video. She is just hard AFKing on this push, not helping at all, which actually allows the opposing Vayne to get in XP range for cannon and just get more last hits than she should have. Things like this are happening constantly in every single lane that we watch, supports actively sabotaging the lane by mismanaging waves. If you compare this to what we see when our challenger players smurf in low elo, they're constantly helping their ADC into the correct play by hitting the wave when necessary, leaving it alone when appropriate, and even coaching the player into a proper lane state whenever possible. Again, this is a big part of how they carry games, so make sure that you're learning and developing this skill. Other supports won't, so it will give you a huge advantage. Alright everyone, that's going to do it for this week's dive into low elo to see which mistakes players are making most frequently that are losing them games. Hopefully you saw a bunch of easy to solve problems that you can fix in your own gameplay. We promise they'll help you to not only win your lane, but to impact the game as a whole and stop coin flipping games. By the way, you should know where these videos come from. Our hyper improvement platform SkillCap is by far the best place to be if you want to actually improve at League of Legends. You can input your rank before you sign up and see where we think you'll climb to. If you don't reach that rank while actively using skill capped, you can claim a full refund. That's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped or you get your money back. We offer this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't, you shouldn't have to pay for it. So be sure to check us out after this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.